Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm here with some friends, Samantha, Catherine, and Jason, and we are in the book Whatever Arises, Love That, A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. Here's the book. We are starting chapter 6 this week. In the physical book, it's on page 99. Catherine reads from Scrib, and she knows which page that's at. And if she is willing to read for us again, as always, she does such a great job. I love it when she reads. But I'll let everybody jump out and introduce themselves, and then we'll see about getting started on chapter 6, Exploring the Ego.
Good morning, everybody. It's Samantha Studebaker-Carl here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Good to see you all. Looking forward to the conversation.
Good morning, Samantha. Good morning, everybody. It's Jason Roberts in St. Pete, Florida. Glad to be here as well.
Good morning, everybody. This is Catherine Clement. Let me flip over to my script. Okay.
We have Karen.
So in script, we're on.
We have Karen Lohoff that just joined us last second here. Do you want to say hi to everybody, Karen, or do you want to just go ahead and let Catherine go ahead? Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay. So in script, this is on page 110, and it's the very beginning of chapter 6, Exploring the Ego. When you wake up out of ego, it is not as if there is some thing you have actually transcended. Instead, you see through the facade of everything you've assumed or have been taught about your ego. The recurring theme in a spiritual journey is awakening out of every conclusion, belief, and reference point, including those created out of your most treasured moments of clarity. This occurs at every stage of exploration until only the truth of love remains. Since everything but love is relinquished, why not put aside any insight, practice, or course of study by allowing your heart to lead the way? While ego is the imaginary identity of an overstimulated nervous system, it's important to provide a more practical understanding of what this actually means. When rooted in a heart-centered journey, you are able to make sense of your life, but in a way in which nothing needs to be admonished, punished, persecuted, abandoned, or avoided in the name of your highest spiritual growth. This is not to say that what you've learned about the ego from traditional paths is incorrect. It's more about that you have arrived at an exciting point in history where you are ready to expand your understanding of ego in a more universal way. In many traditions, ego is viewed as the personality of the body. Through helping many people cross over into the afterlife, as well as through communication with those who are already on the other side, I've discovered that the personality goes way beyond the boundaries of the body as an aspect of the soul. The personality is an individuated expression of eternal light, celebrating the uniqueness of divinity in form. In my experience of communicating with beings after they've crossed over into the afterlife, they appear to me still in the shape and form of the person from their human incarnation. In some inexplicable way, when I am able to connect with their consciousness, I converse with the essence of a soul just as you would have a conversation on the phone. In the beginning, I thought it was just my imagination. But when the messages that were conveyed to me were validated by their loved ones, it helped cultivate a wellspring of respect for the endless potential and magnificent capabilities that dwell within each of us. During my conversations with souls, they appeared with the same personality traits, quirkiness, and humor they embodied when they were here in form, but within a larger context of what they may not have been aware of during their lifetime. By understanding the personality as an aspect of the soul, it liberates you from being ashamed of your traits and characteristics. No matter how far you travel in your spiritual journey, Your unique qualities are not eliminated by evolution, but enhanced to their highest potential at the rate of your expansion. You are not here to achieve a state of transcendence in which you have no personality, because not having one would effectively deny the very uniqueness that you are bringing to the world. Everyone has a unique personality, which carries a one-of-a-kind vibrational frequency that no one else in history can deliver to this planet. Like a color of a rainbow that no one else can illuminate through the beauty of your being, you are bringing to life a special remembrance of truth as a gift provided for all. Even if you are dwelling in a personality that feels limiting or painful, you are working on behalf of the universe to explore this side of the emotional scale, to build up momentum and catapult into higher vibrations of conscious expression. No matter how low you go into the agony of victimhood, this is only part of a miraculous journey where you rise out of the ashes of fear, shame, and regret to shine a light that heals every heart. Is that good?
Yeah. Any thoughts, anybody, on this first section of exploring the ego in chapter 6?
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of similar to what was talked about in your soul's plan, where you kind of come here, you have your personality, and you experience the experiences as that personality, and with the goal of kind of learning through those experiences, like not like a to overcome a problem, but to have the experience of that and add it to the greater knowledge, or the expanded knowledge of, our whatever we are on the other side, if you will. So I like that it talks about that, because I feel like a lot of times we get down on ourselves because we don't think we're doing it right, and I don't think there is a right or wrong way of doing it. I think that we're just here to experience it. Like, it is an adventure, that we've come here to have this adventure and experience every aspect of this existence from this particular point of view, and that it's all good, like every aspect of it is good from the soul's perspective. When we're here in a human body and something horrible is happening, it doesn't feel good, obviously. But from the soul's perspective, where there isn't any judgment on any of it, and that it is just kind of like this idea that it's an experience, I love that. And I love the fact that it reminds us that, when we're working on our spiritual, heart-centered journey, that not to get down on ourselves when we, it says, when rooted in a heart-centered journey, you're able to make sense of your life, but in a way in which nothing needs to be admonished, punished, persecuted, abandoned, or avoided in the name of your highest spiritual growth. It's like all of it is working in your spiritual growth. And, because I feel like a lot of times, some of these spiritual teachers, kind of act like, okay, well, we got to overcome these emotions, and we have to overcome our attitudes and overcome all of these in order to be better, versus looking at it as this is part of the journey. All of it is good. And each time that I have an experience and I look at it in a different way, that's what the goal is, to look at things in a different way and not necessarily overcome it as if it's bad. So that was kind of what I got out of that.
Okay, I like some of what you brought out, but I'm going over kind of to, I think, how a lot of people will look at this, or how they might approach it. Because I think, and even maybe me for a lot of years, I think a lot of people would have a hard time going with this, that this is an adventure, especially when they're going through the hard things. But I think that's partly because sometimes we don't understand that is part of the journey and the overall adventure. And so therefore, plus I think a lot of people, and me included, I think sometimes we get caught up in what perceptions based on everything that's out there that we kind of sometimes feel boxed in by, for lack of a better way of saying it, and how we internalize a lot of what's out there into our own thoughts and ideas, rather than flipping it out and saying, no, let me go from my heart out and love and push that love out to overcome that out that way, rather than kind of conversely. And I think we forget some of those aspects of the, for lack of a better way, the spiritual or the connectedness we have to God, the universe, all that, and how this is all part of a learning and growing and getting back to that connected sense of I don't want to say oneness, but that overall higher sense of connectedness back to, I guess maybe our original state or highest state or most loving state, I guess is how I kind of trying to think of it. And I think that's where we get kind of bogged down, or we kind of lose track of a lot of what he's saying here. And the ego kind of steps in and kind of does not help in that, and kind of helps muddy the waters.
I'm curious. It's really interesting that this is kind of on a different aspect of what he's talking about here, but this whole concept of our personality carrying over into the other spiritual side of things. And the reason I'm curious about that is, if we're not that much different on the other side or in the other aspect of it, is that how do we not bring all of the negativity, if you will, from this side into that side? It's a curious thing. So I am very interested in knowing, obviously, what the other side is like and how that relates to this and everything else. I don't know, it's just a thought. I'm like, interesting, because I kind of had this idea that we just become one with the universe, if you will, when we pass on. And I like to think that our personality is part of that, but I kind of wondered if it was more like, oh, okay, we just become the ocean versus the drop of water. And in the ocean, even though we have this knowledge of our experience, we aren't really that drop anymore. We're the everything. So just a curiosity thought.
Well, I think based on, go ahead, Catherine, go ahead.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it goes along with your point you made a little bit at the beginning of how he talks about how we do have that unique identity and that uniqueness there as well as here, and but I think there that uniqueness is, in my mind, the way I'm kind of looking at it and seeing is, it's almost like looking in is it a two-way mirror, or where you're on the one side of the mirror and you can see through to the other side, but the other side can't see through back. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is the other side can see through to us and what's going on, and be that identity of that, I'll call it, maybe for lack of a better word, that pure identity, that full loving identity of ourselves. Whereas here, where we're experiencing it and growing and learning to love, I guess, go back to the essential love and trying, I don't want to say recreate it, but reconnect, I guess, to that side, to where we can feel that true, genuine identity of who we are, maybe, I guess. And that because of being on this side and everything out here and everything like that, we don't have that capability to fully look through the window yet, or back through the mirror, so to speak, to see, oh, that's what I'm really working towards, or that's really what I'm supposed to be. And so we're trying to get to that point where we can be at that mirror to be able to see the other side. And I think it's by working towards that highest level of ourselves. And I think when we get close, we resonate it, and we sense it, and we kind of feel it, and we kind of know we're on the right track, because I think it will be like the more full sense of love and what we're working for, if that makes sense. Please share your thoughts, Kevin, if you had a thought, or if not, I'm sorry.
Well, I do like how it says it's more about that you have arrived at an exciting point in history where you're ready to expand your understanding of ego in a more universal way. And so that, because it seems to me that the ego, overstimulated or not, seems to be such a big part of our personalities. It's interesting that he mentions how when he is able to speak with a soul, that it still maintains much of the personality of the person who was as they were on and on the planet. So I don't know if that is meant to be that we carry some of it over, or if it somehow colors our soul a little bit, even the negative part. Because I was kind of and thinking that as we pass over, that our soul is sort of stripped from of the ego in these earthly earthly understandings, to where we are more aware and open, and have more understanding of how where we were and what we were supposed to be doing, and like oh, we have all the answers at that point is what I was kind of seeing, but no, maybe not. I don't know. What do you think?
Hi, everybody. I appreciate your welcome. I was impressed at the beginning about how he talked about I'm not sure if we change, or if we just realize all of our assumptions, all of our judgments, the way that we have seen things. One of the things that I experience here in a group of people that are, you know, basically my age group, and they've come through their lives being whoever it is that they're being. You know, some are clearly still the cowboy. Some are clearly the lean on, you know, lean on whoever they can lean on. Um, just to be able to look at and listen to um, the assumptions that we have. The assumptions, for me, it's always easier to see it in somebody else, to see assumptions that they make. I watched a woman. She's so slender. She's possibly the most slender person I've seen in real life. And I was thinking a couple days ago, I wonder how she maintains herself at that state. And yesterday, rather than take advantage of the special or any other items, she took advantage of a hot dog. But she wanted nothing on her hot dog, nothing at all. And when it came to her, there were some little chopped onions in the bun that the hot dog came in. And she tamped all that out and just made sure there was not even one little piece of onion on the hot dog. And it's just funny to me to kind of see, you know, how strictly some people can do things that I, you know, almost never do strictly. And I was told by one of the gals that was helping me to get to where I was going, how nice this person is. And then she said, and everybody talks about what a nice person you are too. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I think in most of my life, that would not have been what people were thinking about me, is that I was just a nice person. So I think about my personality and how I'm viewing it now from a lot of strangers' viewpoints, you know, that they're putting out there. And I feel so much more comfortable with my personality, with the fact that I'm not like so and so. I think I'll leave it at that for right now, but I was really enjoying what he said at the beginning.
I would agree. You're a nice person, Karen. But I totally understand what you mean when you say that, because people, I guess with the, you know, with social media, people say things about you on social media and stuff. And you know, I always feel like people have a much higher opinion of me than they should. I'll just leave it at that. Like, you know, I think that's part of our own self. I don't know, we are so hard on ourselves, and we, you know, instead of focusing on all the good that we do in the world, we tend to focus on that one little mistake we made, or that one harsh word that we even thought, you know, maybe we didn't even say it, but some of us will beat ourselves up over a thought or anything sometimes, uh, which is why I love Matt's books, because he's, you know, he keeps reminding us that's not necessary. That's not necessary to beat ourselves up like that. my experience with talking to dead people is that they absolutely do retain bits of their personality, but not all of their personality. So I think when we're out of this body, we remember a lot more, and we can see through some of our superficial personality traits that we might have had in this incarnation. And the way that I can explain that is with my grandmother. She was an extremely racist person. And when I checked in with her about marrying my husband, who is Black, she laughed and laughed and laughed from the other side. In body, she would have disowned me, literally, even though she raised me as her own child. She would have literally disowned me. She would have never spoken to me again. She would have never laid eyes on me again. She would have never talked to me on the phone even again. And she just laughed and laughed, like she just thought that was the funniest thing, because she knew where I was going, like, you're okay with this kind of thing, and she just laughed. But having said that, and being a human in form in this moment, I don't know, I can't honestly say how much of that is true or not true, like how much of that is my own making up, or like, I know she has spoken to me at times and given me instructions that when I carried those instructions out, I avoided a consequence. Or like the time my daughter and I were in an automobile accident together, and we both remarked at the same time, Grandma saved us. We both felt her presence. So I have had confirmation that what I am communicating with is true, because I've gotten the results from that. So I tend to think that, all the communication I have with her is true. And also other people, other dead people that I've spoken to, there is definitely, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like you feel I feel a unique energetic signature that somehow I know that that person I'm speaking to is a particular person or spirit or soul, whatever you want to. So in other words, when Archangel Michael comes through, he feels very differently than Jesus. When Jesus comes through, Jesus has a really particular signature, energetically, what I feel in my body when their presence is around me. I don't know how to explain that to somebody that hasn't felt that, other than maybe you could just think about somebody that you truly love or you truly hate here on the human experience, and just that feeling that you get when you're in their presence or even on the phone with them. You get a certain, some people really calm you, and like you just automatically, the minute you hear that person's voice, you just take a deep breath in and relax. And other people just put you on edge, but that's that energetic feeling, that you're picking up on. And it's the same way with talking to people on the other side. They still have that signature that is very unique to them. I don't know that I would call it personality, but I don't know what else to call it.
Well, I think we need to define that then. Be the first group to ever define it. The characteristics, personality traits of the soul. I don't know.
Well, I think Catherine kind of hit on it a little bit, because I do believe that we have a soul, and that we are, that part of what returns back to God or the universe, or however I look at it, as returning back to God. I think that's the essential thing, that energy is what identifies us, and whatever the purest original of where we came from in with God, the universe, infinite intelligence, however, I think that's what we get a little bit of on this side, but it's somehow not in the purest form, based on what we learn and go through and are taught, because we are born, we have our parents, we learn from our parents, we learn from things around us, from culture, from stuff, and those things kind of play into the existence here. But there are times where, for lack of a better way of saying it, I've had intuition or feelings or something, and it may be departed family member or somebody I knew, however, giving me a gut feeling or a sense or something that, I don't want to do that, or, go over here or do this, or, and then when I look back, I get it's not, I don't want to say confirmation, but it's like, and then I could kind of define, oh, well, that felt like something my grandmother might have said, or that felt like something my mom might have said or done, or, suggested, or things like that. And so therefore, that's how I, because I'll admit I'm not as in tune with some things as, a lot of people. And so sometimes I even question some of those gut feelings, or those things that, and almost like, is that real or is it not real, or is it, but I do believe that we are in tune, or that we can be more in tune, and like Catherine said, and can better activate and pick up on those signatures that are out there, but yet it's all still interwoven together in the one big realm of things too, in that collective, that collective, for lack of a better way of saying it. So sometimes, that's some of the things I wrestle with, where I'm trying to, figure out, why did I get that feeling, or why did I feel like I needed to do that, or, why was it so strong that I should do that, and all those things. And so that may be that's also part, I think, of what a lot of the books and what we go through and talk about, also to help us connect better and get a better understanding, so we can connect in that aspect and better understand ourselves too.
They definitely come through you sometimes, I think. But I mean, there's been uncountable times in my life that I would not have stood up for myself, or acted the way I did. But it's almost like especially my grandmother comes like into me, almost embodies me, and I respond. It's not like I grew up with her and so I act like her. It's like it is her responding instead of me responding, because it's in a way that I would not respond on my own. And those have always been times when I really needed more backbone and more strength and more to be more forceful, because I tend to not be that way. You know, I tend to be more kind of laid back and relaxed, but she will just really come through sometimes and make me stand up for myself, which is amazing. Like, I love it when it happens because it reminds me to do that for myself. And not just in those times, but also in times where I'm feeling like I can't do this or something, and she will really come in and remind me that I can. So I absolutely think that you're on track there, Dan, with, they come through us.
Well, it's neat that he, like that you mentioned that, and that there are aspects of their personality are still there, and that he mentions that everyone has a unique personality that carries a one of a kind vibrational frequency that no one else in history can deliver on this planet. And he likens it to the color of a rainbow that no one else can illuminate. So that well, he says, through the beauty of your being, you are bringing to life a special remembrance of truth as a gift provided for all. Even if you're dwelling in a personality that feels limiting or painful, you're working on behalf of the universe to explore this side of the emotional scale, to build up momentum and catapult into higher vibrations of conscious expression. Because it's just it's neat to me to still hear that sort of thing, especially in this day and age when you can go onto social media and you can almost find 20 other people that look and sound similar to yourself. It's almost as like we've lost a lot of our uniqueness, it seems like, just in knowing that there's other people out there that carry many of the same characteristics as we do. If you've ever Googled your name, and you may come up with quite a few of the same people that have the same name of that you do, or perhaps you've seen some images of people and they look similar to you. It's just interesting, and sometimes it can be more than interesting. It can almost be like, hey, we're not as unique as we thought we were. So it's I guess it's helpful to know that there are some unique traits, at least within our soul, that bring about or that become sort of a gift and is unique in our afterlife.
Interesting between what you just said, Jason, and what Catherine even said before. I was just thinking, I was just kind of going way out and thinking in a broader sense, because I was thinking, okay, well, look at, the planets, look at the stars, look at the, different aspects of, and then going even inward to the smallest thing. Everything has identifiable signatures, for lack, and something that makes it unique unto itself in that aspect, but yet a lot of things carry some of the same other things to help make it form or be, just like, we all have blood, or we all need oxygen, things like that, or certain things go together to make planets. Now, some planets are different and aren't able to sustain life, or aren't able to more gases. Others are maybe more liquid, more hot, more cold. Stars, you have, dark stars, you have, this, that, you have black holes, even the matter in space, there's identifiable things that make it unique into that, but yet it's still all encompassed in an overarching all. I kind of want to say like oneness, so to speak. It all is part of something that is, I think, still there's more to it than we may fully know and understand yet. And so with that, so I think, that identifying thing, you still need those little identifiers. And I think that's part of what, he's kind of saying here is, that thing carries through, whether on that side or here. It's just probably more, it's in the pure form and more love, energetic, or in that idea of how what he puts out is love, the pure energy of love. And therefore, and here, like I said before, we're kind of boxed in to what we're going through on our journey to get to that higher vibrational level, I guess.
I've always wondered if people that have multiple personalities, are the psychological explanation here on Earth is that they're damaged people who have experienced trauma, and their psyches have split up into multiple different personalities to help them compartmentalize traumas, blah, 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 blah. Well, what happens if they're just mediums and different people are just coming through and they're not able to control their body enough to allow or disallow another spirit to enter it or not? To me, either that's probably more plausible than the first one, although I do recognize compartmentalization of traumas, of course, and I get that theory, but having felt spirits come through me and knowing that that's possible, I think it could be an explanation as well. Yeah, conduit.
Well, I guess I'll throw out here, in my experience, not necessarily talking with the dead, but associating with the dead, and trying to figure out who's who and why, why it seems that they sought me out. I think about my uncle and how I think he was almost overlaid with a blanket in his life. He just was not free, in my opinion, to be who he was and be recognized for who he was. And I even asked someone why he might have been that way, and he apparently felt that he wasn't liked by part of our family. And yet when he passed on, the morning that I received the phone call that he had passed on, I had already experienced him in the kitchen, dancing and frolicking. I mean, he was literally being entirely different from my experience with him in life, and yet there was no question in my mind that it was him. And so when you were earlier talking about trying to identify by a signature, by a part of a personality, I've really tried to figure out how I would know so certainly that that was him when he was so different. And I wonder if I experienced him as a child. I think I did. Like when I was born, he was in high school, so I think he was probably fairly carefree then. And the reason that I think about that is because he talks about having knocked me on my head, knocked me out of the cradle or something, and falling to the floor on my head, and feeling badly about that, and yet seeing the humor in it, and so I suspect that when I was younger and he was younger, my experience of him might have been very different than anything that I remember. And I also found it really fascinating thinking about the other people in this world who might remind us of ourselves, either our pictures or kind of sounding like we would sound, thinking out loud about how we would sound. I think most of you probably remember Tyne Daly and her acting in the TV show where she and, I wish I could think of her name, I can't think of it right now, were cops, women cops, and I just think she was such an amazing person. She came through as a person of great wisdom, and I was looking, I guess, I'm not sure how I got to where I was seeing this woman that I thought was her, but I knew it was a younger picture than she would be today. And I looked and looked and looked and looked at her and thought it had to be her. But she had a different name, and she was a singer rather than an actress. And I pondered and pondered on that, and I finally realized that they were two different people, but they had seemed to me to be the same person for quite a while. And I think as we think about ourselves as colors in a rainbow that are singular to us, as we think about whatever else we were thinking about with that, I think that there's so many things that we can explore as we look at others and we see our similarities to them, and we see our distinctions from that. This fascinates me, this whole thing about being a personality so individuated. I love that. I love that.
And big pause a moment as we're all trying to rack our brains to kind of, I think, wrap our heads around this a little bit more, because this actually, has a lot to really kind of, you know, sink your teeth into and kind of really think about. And for me, it does make me think about it a little bit more, and because I don't sit and think about this stuff like this very often. And but I was just thinking a little bit ago, going back to something I think Catherine was saying about, or maybe Samantha, about how there are certain people that, some of them we get around and we just get very comfortable, and we take that big breath and go, it's so and so, okay, I can kind of relax, and we're on the same wavelength, energy level and stuff. And then there's somebody else who, maybe a good friend, and also, but at the same point, you kind of get around them and you always kind of take that deep breath and you go, okay, I got to kind of prepare for, and for lack of a better word, but I think it kind of fits connotatively, get ready for battle, so to speak, because it feels like no matter what type of energy you try to put out, they come back with the opposite and something else. And so you're still trying to figure that all out. And it, by the end of the time, you might have done and spent time around them, or, doing something or interacting, you feel way worn out compared to somebody that you kind of match, on the same level, frequency and all that. And when you are done being around them, you might be even refreshed, so to speak. And, that might come in a little bit here where, we're talking about our identities, our, things of coming in from how we interact because of what we're experiencing on this journey, and how in this time and place of our perceptions of how we even look at ourselves and think we're supposed to act and respond, and not taking that moment to realize that maybe we can respond, that we do have the ability to respond and do something different, and maybe on a higher vibrational level than where we're at, or maybe switch it and go to that different level, and instead of reacting like we've talked about before, rather than just being reactionary too sometimes.
Yeah, I absolutely, I love this chapter, and I too love the thought and enjoy when the personality of spirits come through to me. Thankfully, not all of them. like thankfully, my grandma got over her issue with racism, obviously, but I think sometimes we just get out of the body, and then we can sort of see some of the ridiculousness that went on while we were in the body. But what I appreciated about her laughing about it, I know this sounds kind of weird because everybody thinks about racism as such a heavy emotion. She laughed about it. It was like she was laughing about the ridiculousness of it, because it almost framed her entire personality when she was here. It was a mainstay of her personality when she was here. We have a lot of family members that got disowned by my grandmother, like everybody knew her to be that way, and for her to get on the other side and just laugh and laugh and laugh about what she felt was so important during her lifetime here, and then get to the other side and see the ridiculousness of it. So I'm really, I just want everybody to relax a little bit, and not, I hate to say don't take life seriously, because we're, especially in these days and times, there's so much going on, and we have to take things seriously, of course, but just somehow keep in mind, when you're getting into that really stressful, anxious place, just keep in mind that there's an end game to all this. There's a lot more going on that we're not consciously aware of right now. And those people that you feel rob your energy, if you talk to people and you feel like they're robbing your energy, or you're just drained when you get off the phone with them or whatever, take that on as a challenge to control your own energy better. That person is teaching you that you don't know how to do that, and you need to learn how to do it. And I speak to myself. I'm not speaking to anybody in particular. I have to speak to myself on that, because I have interactions with people where, I come out of it and I'm not what I was when I went into it, but that's my issue. That's not their issue. Now, some people do have, they let themselves get into a depressed state, and so their energy is very low. And then they do kind of energetically drain you, take energy from you. But the thing is, I don't think, and I say this, with a heavy heart, because I've allowed people to do this to me in the past. I don't think somebody can steal your energy unless you allow that to happen. Or let me add something to that. Maybe it happens, but as an energetic being, you have the ability to replace that energy, as opposed to feeling like they just robbed all your energy. I don't know if that made any sense. But so again, it's in perspective and how we look at things that means much more than what is actually happening in reality, or what we even perceive to be happening. It is what we think about that. And of course, that has been a theme in every book that we've read, pretty much. So, and this one included. So anyway, I'll shut up, but I love you guys. Have a great week, and be kind to yourself and others.
Yeah, I'll throw out my last thoughts, and then anybody else, if they have last thoughts. I like what you just said, Catherine, because I did bring up, like, I do have one friend that does kind of drain me, but I think you're right in part of it. I allow that to happen, and part of it I kind of know where it's coming from, so I don't want to say I've excused it, but in a way I've kind of excused it, because I know of some of where it's coming from. But I think I can do better at, like you said, maybe replacing it, better, and finding ways to replace it and take that responsibility of myself, because I have allowed it. And then it's up to me to kind of come back and find the ways to replace it. And I think I kind of already do that. I tend to kind of, after spending time around it, I tend to need time to myself, to where I can kind of refocus and regenerate, so to speak, I guess, and kind of pull myself back up to where I feel I need to be. So I think subtly I've learned that a little bit. It just didn't hit me full on in the front, like my thought process, like you just brought it out. But I appreciate that you just said that, because that might be the one thing I needed to hear or learn today, that, okay, I'm allowing it, but I am also the one that can replenish it through other means and ways of how I can replenish it to help get me back to where I need to be. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and hop out here real quick too. I can certainly appreciate that too. What Catherine's saying, and it brings up, reminded me of, article that I just read like just the other day and hadn't heard about the topic in a while. But it was they were talking about the concept or the idea of certain people being energy vampires, and it was kind of coming back to the idea of like we're a lot of us are starting to work back in the office again and having to have those those inter office relationships and I'm the type of, I think, there's all different types of people. I'm the type of person who when I listen, I'm listening not just with my ears, but I'm also emotionally. And so I can definitely feel like those energies kind of can get dumped on me, and I'm more aware of it. I try not to do that to other people. If I'm in a bad mood, I just sort of, or not in a great mood, or I just sort of stay away from people and to kind of not have an effect on them. But sometimes, whether it's good or bad, if I'm in my own zone, and then someone comes up and starts talking to me about whatever it is, it can push me out of my energetic state, and it can sometimes take a moment for me to get back into that, or a big long moment, depending on what it is. But kind of goes in line with what we've spoken about with some of the other books, and that we can sort of end up taking on these energies of people and our surroundings and everything, and not even realize it. But with it helps to know where it's coming from, and it also helps to be reminded that we have the ability to and tools to deal with it. And I guess that's one of the things we have to learn, is to how to cope. And that was what the article was saying too, was to be aware, and to be able to just recognize when it's happening, and if you need to just end the conversation with the person, or end the interaction, so that you can move on with what you need to do. It's because who knows, maybe it's someone who is as a conduit, and they're channeling something, and we don't know if we're supposed to be receiving that, or if it's if it's some crossed wires or something. And I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I've had experiences where I've like, okay, that was interesting, I don't know what that was all about, and then maybe a few days later, or a few weeks later, I'm like, that reminds me of that conversation I had with that person, and I didn't understand anything about at the moment. But so we never know when those revelations are gonna be there. We never know when things are gonna arise. But I guess it's that's part of loving what arises, and then appreciating it for what it is, and then hopefully we can utilize it down the road. But I certainly appreciate what you were saying there, Catherine and Dan. Thank you so much for the reading, Catherine. And it's good to see everybody, and good to be here today. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Samantha, are you good? And okay. Well, with that, for the Saturday Morning Mastermind, it's about 8:15. So we've gone about an hour now because we started late, but we are in the book, Whatever Rises, love that. A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. Again, we're in chapter 6, and we will be starting with the next section called When Personalities Become Inflamed. and that probably will be interesting. A nice little addition on top of the ego, because I think the ego is probably how a lot of things become inflamed. So with that, see you guys. Also, please like, subscribe, go to our Facebook page, Mindset Mastery Collective. You can join the group there. If you want to be a participant on the panel here with us on Saturday mornings, get a hold of one of us and we can help you with that. And also go check out our YouTube channel, where we have replays of all the Saturday Morning Masterminds, and where you can go back and go to past ones or try and catch up on what we've done now. Please like and subscribe there. And once again, see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind.